Please welcome Dr. Khalid for keynote address.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Engineer Nafisa, Chairman. Engineer Monisa, Vice Chairman, IEEEP. Wasim Nazir Sahab, the Chief Guest of this impactful solution-oriented gathering. Chairman EEC. Mera Gaibana Salam, Engineer Khalid Bisharat Chima Sahab. Thank you so much for the invite. If you could play the presentation. Thank you. Okay, let me just accept and acknowledge that I am a little bit confused here because of the very good agenda set by Zishan sir. It is very technical, very solution oriented, and I can see many good friends, very expert faces in this arena. So my presentation would be focused on a bit off topic, but it is very relevant to Pakistan's context. It would be some sort of overviewish kind of view of power sector, but connected to what is happening around the world, particularly in this changed world, which are facing climate change, which is facing trade restrictions, Trump economics, and so on and so forth. So I would be discussing these things. Well, in terms of overviews, it is a bit of, out of dimension. If you could sort of squeeze it a bit, or it would not be. Okay. Let's continue with it. We are 8th most vulnerable to climate change, and if you see the German Watch report, recent report, using the 2022 data, we are first most vulnerable country to climate change right now. In 2022, we had these enormous devastating floods which caused around 30 billion USDs to the GDP of Pakistan. And when I say 30 billion USDs, it is equivalent to a whole year of saving of all the Pakistanis, because at that time the GDP was 300 billion USDs and the saving rate was 10%. So 30 billion was the saving of all the Pakistanis for 1 year, and one flood washed it away. Okay, and the share of unsustainable energy is increasing in the sector. In the power sector, we are financially unsustainable, so we need to cater for that as well. Okay, let me ask you a very difficult question. Anybody can tell me CFR? CFR, Abu Bakr Sahib is right, yeah. CFR, cat. But in Pakistan, there are so many C's that we need to talk about. Okay, current account. We have current account deficit, a chronic one, but now it is converting to surplus. But again, thanks to the remittances, not the exports. Exports are again declining, are stagnant. So we need to look for that, and one particular way is through engineers like yourselves, that we integrate economy, energy and environment. I always say that Pakistan is facing not just the economic problem or the energy problem or the environment problem, it is the mixture of these three E's: economy, energy and environment. Okay, previous slide please. The C पर क्या है? It is not working. Okay, second C is this capacity trap that Dr. Fyaz Chaudhry Sahab always highlighted, that we are in this capacity trap, underutilized power plants, particularly those who have been built under the China-Pakistan economic corridor, because we couldn't integrate our economy with our energy sector. Third C is again or climate change, because climate change is not just the environmental crisis right now, it has been linked with macroeconomics and it has become a macro critical risk, particularly if you see it in the context of CBAM, that is upcoming trade restrictions using the climate smart trade, that is carbon border adjustment mechanism. Right now it has been imposed on 6 sectors by European Union, and it will be expanded to all the sectors by 2030, which means exports coming into EU will be subjected to carbon intensity and carbon calculations, carbon assessment. If there is more carbon intensity in the manufacturing process, manufacturing process, the goods, exported goods would be subject to CBAM fee or these carbon taxes abroad, which will sort of hurt our export competitiveness. Last C that I see as a solution is CTBCM, the market liberalization, which have the potential to sort of bring Pakistan out of capacity trap, link CBAM into the equation, and we can have our industrial growth through a competitive, resilient, and liberalized energy market. This curve is known as environmental Kuznets curve. Simon Kuznets curve is developed this. There are two phases. In first phase, if you see the graph, when income level increases, your emissions are bound to increase because you had industrial growth, you will be focusing more on cheaper energy supplies, your emission sort of increases, but there is one tipping point. After that tipping point, you need to look for the second stage, where if you want to increase your economic growth or income level, you need to reduce your emissions. But right now in this world, we need to begin from the second stage. We need to link our environmental strategies with our economic strategies, with our power sector strategies. So the future, the present is that we integrate economy, energy, environment into one equation. Okay, this is where the problem starts. Generation. Pakistan generation, the electricity consumption is declining. You know the numbers. There are multiple factors. Tariffs are too high. There is solar revolution coming on, grid constraints, and other sort of things. So there has been a drastic decline in generation consumption. So we need to cater for that. If you see the utilization rate, the first panel shows the imported coal power plants. They are underutilized. Their utilization rate is drastically declining over the period of time. Capacity charges are increasing. We are utilizing more our indigenous coal reserves. Similarly, the RFO plants and other RLNG plants, they are being utilized, but the problem lies where we couldn't integrate economy with our energy sector, our power sector. These power plants are underutilized, and these power plants will remain underutilized because we are not considering the CBAM into the equation, not considering the tariff dimensions into the equation. So we need to think a holistic whole of the sector sort of a view, where I think IEEE can play a very good role integrating these dimensions into the sector. Next slide, please. Again, not working. Okay, please, next slide. Next slide. Next. Okay, next. Okay, this is, I think you would not be able to see these numbers, but this is a chart of a coal power plant of capacity charges. If you see all these indicators of capacity charges, they are linked with economic indicators, your inflation rate, your exchange rate, your CPI, your interest rate, and these numbers have deteriorated. These indicators have deteriorated. As a result, these capacity charges have increased by multiple folds. For example, for this power plants, the capacity charges in 2019 was 3.2 rupee per unit. There has been nothing but the economic distortion in the market, and now these capacity charges has increased to 10 to 12 rupee per unit, 4 times increase because of the economic variable. So you need to bring economics into the fold so that these marvelous engineering solutions, they work fluently, efficiently. So this is how economy, energy, and again I'll bring another E that is very important. Engineering works in a harmony, in an integrated way. Consumption side. This is again a very key fundamental anomaly in Pakistan's power sector. Our power consumption mix is contrary to the world trend. For example, in China, they have 50% electricity consumption coming from their industrial side, or 20% consumption comes from the industrial side, and 50% are around 60% comes from the residential side, which means unproductive power sector, not integrated with the economy. So again, we need to bring only one solution for the economy, that is to bring industrial sector, industries to the power sector, so that we can increase our demand. So if you see the consumption figures, the electricity sales, you'll see if you compare fiscal year 23 with 24, domestic sector, commercial sector, public lighting, bulk supply, general services, for all these sectors, electricity consumption has increased. Okay, but what happens to industry and agriculture, which is your commodity producing sectors? Their industrial consumption is declining by 10% or so. So again, industry is leaving the grid, industry is decreasing their electricity consumption, which is causing, I would say, havoc in our power sector. So again, one solution, we need to bring industry on the grid. We need to ensure the ease of doing business. We need to bring industrial sector. Again, in your electricity consumption mix, if you see your electricity consumers, you will find out that around 54% of your total consumers, they are protected consumers, which means Pakistan के 100% में से जो 54% कंज्यूमर्स हैं वो 200 से कम यूनिट्स बिजली के यूज करते हैं. I mean, कैसे हो सकता है? आपकी टोटल पॉपुलेशन का 54% is protected. It is not a way to go. We need to think about it. We need to incentivize more electricity consumption so that we can solve this capacity trap. But right now, what is happening in Pakistan, tariff system is designed in such a way that it disincentivizes more electricity consumption. So we need to think on how to change, how to rationalize the tariff structure. One solution might be, that will come up later, that might be a good solution to have, that is rooftop solar integration, but with a whole of society, whole of the sector approach. Okay, another C for CBAM. CBAM is a new form of protectionism. What is happening here is Europe come up with a good environmental regulations, good environmental taxes. As a result, the industry, the native industry, domestic industry of Europe, they started to flee from the Europe to avoid these regulations, these taxation. So they opted for the countries where there are no environmental taxes or there are cheaper inputs. What Europe come up with, if they are exporting manufacturing goods to EU, they are bound to face some sort of taxes. It is for the protection of their domestic industry, but will have a very drastic sort of impacts on Pakistan. For example, if we are exporting a commodity of 100 euros, if you see this data, next slide please. Okay, the fourth panel says that power grid as compared to EU's power grid, this is the data from CBAM exposure index of World Bank. You will see that Pakistan's power grid is 1.4 times more carbon intensive as compared to EU. These numbers are being used to calculate the CBAM fee. And if one article is of 100 euros, after CBAM, Pakistan's exports would be 140 euros, which will hurt Pakistan's export competitiveness. This poses another dilemma for Pakistan. If we want to increase the industrial progress, if we want to increase the industrial growth, if we want to increase the industrial consumption share of the electricity, now there is another variable that we need to take into account, and that is carbon intensity. If we want to increase the grid's demand, we need to invest in renewable energy so that we can solve this capacity trap. Other than that, there will be capacity trap and will be delved into another very vicious cycle that will cause Pakistan not only economically but also in social realm as well. Next slide please. So C for CTPCM, market liberalization, exporting industry will opt for B2B contracts with renewable energy power plants. So another dilemma that if the exporting industry is contracting B2B in B2B terms with the renewable energy power plants, so maybe for the grid consumers, non-CTBCM consumers, electricity prices would increase, so we need to take care of that as well. So we need to think our national grid in a holistic way, in a way that we are incorporating these three E's together: economy, energy, environment, so that we can use CTBCM as a way forward. In terms of way forward, please next slide. Next slide, please. Next slide, next slide, next slide. Next slide. Okay, we need to think on integrated economic planning. We have this good integrated system planning right now, and TDC is working on it, but still integrated economic planning where engineers and economists, they can sit together and they can chart a way out for Pakistan's industrial future. We need to look into sector coupling. Irfan Saab is sitting here. Sector coupling is when you couple two sectors together. For example, in Pakistan, wind sector, they face curtailment, and when there is a wind curtailment, they have to the consumers have to bear the burden of non-project missed volumes, which is increased by multiple folds in Pakistan, like 30 billion rupee last year. So what we can do is we can couple these two sectors together, maybe building a hydrogen plant near the wind sector, wind corridor, that will generate Pakistan a good amount of green hydrogen that is in demand, and the demand is increasing in the world. So in that way, maybe sector coupling can be a good option. We need to have industrial growth, very pertinent solution, and I take credit of it that coal to clean credit initiative, SDPI has worked on it. This is a very good way forward for Pakistan, particularly if you see it from a lens that we need to solve it from Pakistan's capacity trap problem. What does it do? It uses the carbon credits market. It generates carbon credits through early retirement of coal power plants. So if Pakistan's imported coal power plants are underutilized, they are not being utilized more than 10% or 15% in last year, we can use this utility, we can generate carbon credits, and we'll have the early retirement of these power plants, and using that capital, we can convert or repurpose these power plants to renewable energy power plants. There is one pilot study going on in Philippines that is focused on early retiring 400 megawatts of coal power plants in Philippines. So Pakistan has a competitive advantage in utilizing this coal to clean credit initiative, because Pakistan's coal power plants are relatively younger, and younger power plants, they generate more carbon credits when you early retire those power plants. So maybe one solution to that is this coal to clean credit initiative. Rationalization of tariff is very important. 54% of your total consumers are protected consumers. There are some calculations from SDPI available on SDPI's website that if we take this protected label back from the consumers, sir, we can save around 90 billion rupee per year. And if we use Benazir income support program for targeted subsidies for the lifeline consumers, our best consumers, only 42 billion rupee will be spent, which means that you are saving around 40 to 45 billion rupees in terms of these subsidies. So again, we need to move away from the blanket subsidies towards targeted subsidies. One good solution to rationalize these subsidies is the solar net metering, solar rooftop. We can provide rooftop solar to these lifeline consumers, these protected consumers. Maybe these billions of rupees of subsidy can be reoriented in terms of providing an indigenizing solar manufacturing tailored for these low consuming consumers. For example, for 200 units consumer or less than 200 unit consumer, so that the burden of subsidies can be rationalized and we can use those subsidies for a good purpose, maybe for rationalizing the tariff for the industrial consumers. In that way, I think Pakistan's industrial demand will increase, keeping the CBAM in context, we need to invest in renewable energy, and renewable energy right now will not have an economically feasible case because we have already installed so much capacity. Linking it with early retirement initiatives, I think that is the way forward to go. My last recommendation would be, sir, if IEEEP can add one more E to this platform, and that will be economist E, that would be a good thing to have. Thank you so much, sir.